The 2024 college football season continues to zoom by as we have now finished week 5, moving on to the month of October and week 6. But first, let's give you our 5 takeaways from week 5, and we'll start with the game of the week. Alabama-Georgia continues to be must-see TV. So you look at this first half, and it looked like Alabama was going to run away with this game. Looked like they were going to win easily. Georgia comes back, of course, makes it exciting. Actually takes the lead in the fourth quarter. This was just a crazy game. Just going to give you my takeaways really on this game. And these two teams kind of in the big picture of the SEC. So for Alabama, what I think happened in this game is Alabama was so amped up for this game. They came out just with so much more energy, playing so much harder. They did some things that Georgia was not prepared for, really caught them off guard, and again, they dominated the first half. Georgia, Carson Beck, I know he finished great, he played great late in the game, but had the turnovers, had the safety, he just made too many mistakes. Still, Georgia, again, had a chance to win this game, but yeah, I thought Alabama came out and they were prepared. They were the team that was ready to go, and that showed immediately. Both sides of the ball. Alabama dominated early, and then you saw Georgia kind of settle into the game, make some adjustments. I wonder if Alabama if they were so amped up that it kind of they lost some of that later in the game, lost some energy. Georgia probably a little bit of a deeper team, and I think that did show in the second half. And it was not one of those cases where Alabama just took their foot off the gas and played conservative. I mean, they were throwing the ball. They weren't even milking the clock at all with like 4 minutes to go in the game. I mean, that was not the case here. Georgia just outplayed them in the second half. So you saw an Alabama team that looked like the better team in the first half, a Georgia team that looked like the better team in the second half. But if you're an Alabama fan, just be glad you've got Ryan Williams, because he made the play to win this game for Alabama. Just a spectacular young freshman wide receiver. Just played great, and he was huge in this game. Jalen Milroe played really well, especially in the first half. And so you look at these two teams big picture, Alabama's in a great spot. I think that winning this game pretty much guarantees that they're going to be in the college football playoff. You look at LSU on the road, Tennessee on the road. Those are going to be really the only challenges, I think, for this team. Maybe Oklahoma, but probably not. When you look at the way they're playing now, they have basically no offense. So, yeah, you look at two games that they could lose. Chances are they're not going to lose them both. And so even if you do lose them both, Alabama, I mean, they're in the driver's seat. They're in the college football playoff with this win. I don't see any way they don't get in unless there's like disastrous injuries or something. But for Georgia, it's a little bit tougher. There's no guarantee that they bounce back from this and make the playoff. They've got a very, very tough schedule. They've got Texas on the road. They've got Ole Miss on the road. I know they lost to Kentucky, which we're about to talk about that one, but I still don't think that's going to be an easy win. And then you got Tennessee, who's playing great football. Those are 3 really tough games for Georgia, and they're going to have to win out of those 3 games. They're probably going to have to win 2 of the 3. If they lose 2 of those games, I don't know that a 9-3 Georgia team gets in. I guess it's really going to be dependent on how the games play out. They need to start blowing out the teams that they're expected to beat, and then maybe you still get in at 9-3, depending on what happens around the rest of the country. But yeah, big picture here, this was huge for the playoff. I think Georgia actually needed this game a little bit more because of their schedule. I know Alabama's schedule is tough as well, but not nearly as tough as Georgia's. And you like them to probably not lose more than 1 game after this. So this was a huge game, huge win for Alabama. And again, they can almost coast into the college football playoff after this one. Let's go to number 2. So I'm going to say this: any Power 4 team can beat any Power 4 team. Now there may be some exceptions. Some of the really, really bad teams maybe can't beat some of the elite teams, but for the most part, I think we saw that with Kentucky. Kentucky, this is a team that got blown out by South Carolina. Now that game was really, the score does not tell a story of that game. That was kind of a weird game, but still a team that lost to South Carolina and played Georgia really tough. Now they've beaten Ole Miss. I mean, a crazy game there. Did not see it coming at all. I thought Ole Miss would roll in this game. I don't think Ole Miss is quite as good as we expected, but I think Kentucky's defense is just better than we thought. I mean, this was a really impressive performance by them. And then you go to the Miami-Virginia Tech game. Really, no one expected Virginia Tech to have much of a chance in this one, and it came down to the very end, a controversial call. They very, very easily could have won that game. There were other games this weekend that could have easily gone the other way. So yeah, we haven't seen a ton of the big upsets, but we have seen really close calls. I mean, we saw Vanderbilt take Missouri into overtime. So I think we're going to see some major upsets the rest of the season, games that we're not expecting, and it's probably going to shake up the playoff race. We'll see how it plays out, but it's going to be a fun season. The good news for some of these top teams is with the 12-team playoff, you can afford to have a slip up, but you can't afford to do it more than once. So yeah, it was very exciting this weekend with some of these games. Kentucky beating Ole Miss, I thought that was a huge story. Let's go to the Big 12 now. The Big 12 looks wide open again. And I think a lot of this probably is Cam Rising's injury at Utah. But we were just, saying that Utah looks like they're in the driver's seat. This is clearly the best team in the Big 12. And then they go and lose to Arizona. Again, with Cam Rising in there, does that happen? I don't know. Their offense didn't do a whole lot. We saw Kansas State. They kind of pulled away there, won easily against Oklahoma State. BYU is still undefeated. Colorado looked really good against UCF. I don't know what to make of the Big 12, and that's really what we thought preseason. We expected this to be a wide-open conference, and then we got into the season a little bit, and it felt like Utah was the team to beat, and I didn't really know if anyone was going to be able to knock them off. Now, if Cam Rising gets back, they're healthy, maybe they are still the team to beat, but I don't think you can say that for sure, and I think this conference definitely does look wide open at this point. Huge win for Arizona again. Huge win for Colorado. BYU still on all these storylines. The Big 12 is going to be the most exciting conference in college football, I think. And I said that preseason. The ACC, we feel like we've got a couple of front runners there. And the SEC is going to be exciting too. I mean, now you've got Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas. Maybe Ole Miss is not in that conversation. Maybe another team sneaks up there. What's Kentucky going to do the rest of the season? Can they build off of this win? A lot of crazy things happen in that conference as well. But one conference that I think is starting to look more like we expected it to, so kind of the opposite of the Big 12, is the Big 10. It's starting to look really how we expected. So Ohio State, they're taking care of business. We thought they were going to be there. Oregon struggled early, but now they're getting back on track. They won pretty easily against UCLA, and now this Oregon team looks like a team that is going to be right there with Ohio State. And then there's Penn State. Didn't know after the Bowling Green game, was that a fluke, or does this team have some issues? Well, they look good against an Illinois team that's been very solid so far this season. So it kind of feels like it's back to what we expected with those three teams, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. USC, I don't know if they're in that conversation or not. They had some turnover problems, struggled early against Wisconsin. They did pull away in the second half of that game, but it kind of feels like it's back to those three teams. Then you've got USC and Michigan kind of in the conversation, but Michigan still has a lot of problems on offense. They have no pass game. I think they're gonna struggle to really be in that playoff conversation. But they're not out of it. They could, they only have a couple of really, really tough games on their schedule. So if they win in one of those two, maybe Michigan does get back into that conversation. But those were really the teams we were looking at in the Big Ten, and it does appear to be back on track to how we expected in the preseason. So I really only have these four takeaways. I got one more for you just because you guys know I am an Auburn fan. I think Auburn might be the best team in the country at finding ways to lose. What a meltdown in the fourth quarter here against Oklahoma. Hats off to Oklahoma for making the plays. It felt like, if you're an Auburn fan, you know what USC fans felt like against Michigan, because really it was just 3 plays for Oklahoma. The long run by the new quarterback made the big run early on in the game. The pick six, obviously that was before the pick six they had the long touchdown pass, and then the pick six. So 3 plays, that was really all Oklahoma had in terms of scoring, in terms of offense. That was it. I mean, Auburn dominated this game, and yet Oklahoma won the game. So yeah, Auburn with the pick six there late in the game, they give up the long pass. They find ways to lose. This is a team that at times you look at them and you say, this is a good football team. This is a team that can compete with some of the top teams, just like last year, how they competed against Georgia and Alabama. And then they just find ways to lose. The turnovers against Cal, the turnovers against Arkansas in games that they probably should have won. And now this game against Oklahoma, all you can do is laugh. I mean, when it happened at the end, I just found it funny that they found another way. The missed field goals in this game, couldn't score on the 1-yard line. Just so many mistakes that cost this Auburn team. When if you look at just the plays on the field, most of them Auburn looked like the better team, but Oklahoma made the plays that they had to. I don't think Oklahoma's a very good football team. I think they've got a good defense, but I don't think they're really going to compete to be a real contender in the SEC this year. We'll see. But yeah, Auburn, I mean, their season's over. This was a disastrous loss, and they still got Georgia and Alabama on the schedule, Missouri and Kentucky on the road. It's going to be a long season for Auburn, but I know a lot of people probably don't care about this game, don't really care about Auburn, but I think Auburn fans should be patient with Hugh Freeze. I know this has been a disaster, but just give him some time. I'm telling you, he's building something. If this recruiting can continue to do what it's been doing, as long as they don't start falling off there because of the performance on the field, if they can continue to recruit and he can get the players in there and they can find a quarterback. And Peyton Thorne played great in this game until the pick six, which really was just a great play by the Oklahoma defender. But just give him some time. I still think that this program overall could be headed in the right direction if they can continue to build the roster. But yeah, just some takeaways from that game. Big takeaways though. We talked about those in the first four. This season's going to be crazy. I just think it's going to be crazy. And I'll tell you right now, I have no idea who's going to win the national championship. I think it's wide open. We'll do an updated playoff prediction video this week. But there are a lot of teams that can win it. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, maybe more than that. It's going to be something. I think this is going to be a very memorable college football season. Give me your takeaways from week 5 down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.